You are listening to Meet the Thriller Author. I am your host, Alan Peterson, and this is episode number 35. In this episode, we'll be meeting Adam Croft, a British author known for his crime fiction. He's best known for the Kempston Hardwick mysteries and Knight and Culverhouse thrillers, as well as his 2015 worldwide best-selling psychological thriller, Her Last Tomorrow, which became one of the biggest-selling books of the year. Adam has sold more than 500,000 books around the world, and in 2016 was featured by The Guardian as one of the biggest-selling authors of the year, and he regularly takes part in discussions and panels on publishing and the future of books, so I'm excited to have him on here to talk about his novels, his writing process, and about the publishing business. I'd like to also ask you for your support in visiting our sponsor, which is Audible, at www.audibletrial.com/MTTA. You'll find a lot of great audiobooks there, including a lot of great thrillers, including Adam Croft's Knights and Culverhouse thrillers. You'll find those on Audible. So check it out at audibletrial.com/MTTA. Hey everybody, I have Adam Croft on for this episode of the podcast, and he's nice enough to be calling us in from the UK, so it's kind of late over there. Thank you, Adam, for being on the show so late.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, well, as you said, I'm from the UK. I write 2 series of books as well as some psychological thrillers which aren't in series. The main series is the Knight and Culverhouse crime thrillers, which are set in a fictional British town, and revolves around the lives of the police officers there and the grisly murders that they investigate, and also the Kempston Hardwick mysteries, which are, I suppose, the best way of describing them is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at the traditional British murder mysteries, your Agatha Christie type things. So kind of a nod to those and the Sherlock Holmes types of mysteries, but also kind of a comedy look at them, I think. More of a pastiche at those. So yeah, there's a lot of work in thrillers and across the sort of crime and mystery spectrum as well.
And are they contemporary times?
They are, yes, yeah. Although with the Kempston Hardwick ones, even though the rest of the world is contemporary, he isn't. He's kind of lost in history somewhere, shall we say?
And so, why did you choose to write the thrillers and mysteries? Were you a fan of the genre before you started writing?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've read, the Sherlock Holmes and the Agatha Christie's and things like that, and they're a lot of fun. They're very formulaic. They're quite easy to write. I've done 4 of those so far. They don't sell as well as the thrillers, but they're a lot of fun, and comedy is a thing that I really like as well, and that creeps into my writing, whether I want it to or not, and that's a good outlet for that, because the way the detectives work together in that series is quite fun. Without giving too much away, their personalities don't always rub off on each other as well as they should do.
And is that the Knight and Culverhouse crime thrillers?
That's the Kempston Hardwick ones. Yeah, the Knight and Culverhouse ones. They're also very similar in that kind of sense that their personalities don't work all that well together. Jack Culverhouse is the DCI, the Detective Chief Inspector, so he kind of runs the murder teams, if you like. And he's very much an old school kind of detective. I'm not sure how much you know about the sort of British policing, but very much in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of corruption going on. A lot of it didn't really matter so much if you got the right person, as long as you locked somebody up and potentially even beat them up at the same time. So he's very much of that kind of old school. He's not resisted. He's not taken the change very well and the modern styles of policing. Whereas DS Detective Sergeant Wendy Knight she's more of the new school of detective, I suppose. Oh,
that sounds like really fascinating. So you've like 2 different generations of detectives.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit better over here because we get BBC of America now, so we watch like Luther and those shows. So we're starting to understand it a little bit better.
Oh, okay. I mean, presumably, have you seen Life on Mars? Did you have that?
No, I haven't. I saw the American version, which wasn't very good, but I keep hearing the British version is excellent, which it was based on, but I have not seen that yet.
Yeah, a lot of people have likened Jack Culverhouse to Gene Hunt, so he's that kind of old school policeman, I suppose. Is to describe it.
Yeah, your books are selling very, very, very well on this side of the pond. Do you find is there is there any nuances to writing, a British, story set in England, in the UK, but you have a lot of American readers? Any challenges in that?
There are. Yeah, I mean, my books are very, very British, and I do get a lot of emails and comments and reviews from American readers who they're kind of split. I mean, half of them say, I don't have a clue what these phrases mean and what's going on here, and the other half like it because it's quirky and it's different and it's different to what most American readers get over there, I suppose. So yeah, it kind of splits in half. I mean, most of my readership is in the UK, so I very much write for a UK audience. But I'm very wary of the fact that I've got a lot of American readers and a lot of readers all over the world as well. So it's something I bear in mind, but I'm also quite wary of the fact that that readers in America and Australia, Canada, do quite like the definite Britishness of the books as well.
Yeah, I think it's for my personal taste. I think it's really cool because it's like a little different. It's like a change of pace versus always reading about the FBI or the local police here. It's neat to see a different culture and the way policing is done over there, and so yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's why the Kempston Hardwick books actually sell better abroad than they do in the UK, because they're that kind of English village chocolate box. Sort of a golden age mystery type of series. So you don't see the grisly murders or anything like that. It's very much about the puzzle and the traditional mystery side of things. So those ones tend to do a lot better abroad because I suppose they put out this image of a Britain that doesn't actually exist anymore. And I think a lot of people abroad like that style.
Yeah, like you said before with the whole Agatha Christie, I mean, she's so famous, the whole world. So that's probably... people are more familiar with that style.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun to write. They're not as commercially successful, so I've only done 4 of those, and they're not normally at the front of my list to write, but they're definitely the ones I enjoy writing the most.
And how long have you been writing for?
Professionally for nearly 6 years now. Actually, yeah. The January 2011, my first book was released. So yeah, but I've been writing all my life. I kind of fell into it accidentally on a professional level, I suppose. Didn't really expect it to take off. Always hoped that it would. Always hoped to be a professional writer, but I was also quite realistic as well, and never actually expected it to. So I've been sort of taking it in my stride and slowly getting used to it, and actually working out what to do now. About 6 years in.
Yeah, and well, you've sold hundreds of thousands of books, so it looks like you've got you got some of it figured out.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm one small step towards taking over the world, which is my ultimate goal.
And now I saw too in your bio that you've published with Thomas and Mercer and and independently. Is there a big difference between the two, being a hybrid?
There is, yeah. I mean, I think that the experience with Thomas and Mercer is different to what it would be with another kind of mainstream publisher, because they're part of Amazon. I'd say it's much more like self-publishing, but with a lot of support behind you. They give you a lot of control over input onto cover designs, working very closely with the editors. And you always feel like you're in control of the process still, so that's always a really good thing, and they're fantastic to work with on that front. So it's not quite the same as working with a mainstream publisher, I suppose, even though I've never worked with one. But I think it's kind of they are a halfway house almost. So it doesn't feel like selling out or changing what I'm doing completely. And of course, in the meantime, I can keep putting my books out in my series. As a self-published author as well.
Oh yeah, that's great, because usually you hear when traditionally the big five or whatever, they would make you sign non-compete clauses and all these draconian rules. So that's kind of nice that they let you do your own thing still.
Yeah, no, they're very good, and they're very open about things. You didn't have to sign my life away or anything like that. Still able to keep writing my 2 series. They were very clear that what they wanted was the psychological thrillers. Even things like film and TV rights I've kept, which is great, because I'm now in conversations about doing adaptations for TV over here, which is fantastic. And yeah, they're very good like that. I mean, I think the entire contract was about 4 pages long, so none of this confusing legalese or anything like
wow, that's good to hear.
that. Yeah, they're a pleasure to work with. They are.
So, what inspired you to write your first book, your first fiction book?
I think it was a case of, I mean, people always say you should write the book you want to read. I only found that out fairly recently, but I think it was a case of not having the book out there that I wanted to read. So I thought, well, I'll write one myself. I've always liked reading crime fiction, and I've always kind of written creatively, I suppose, not professionally though. So I thought I'd have a go myself. And the first book was, it took me about 2.5 years to actually finish it, because you're doing bits in evenings every now and again and not working on it for weeks or months on end. And it only came out about 25,000 words. So yeah, bit of a slow burn, whereas now I'm putting out a 50, 60,000 word book every month or two. So I'm getting the hang of it now.
Oh wow, yeah, that's impressive. And what's your do you plot extensively, or do you kind of just what do you say? It's that pantsing. I think that's you just kind of just make it up as you go along.
I've tried pantsing, and I would love to. And I'm insanely jealous of all the people I see who just sit down and write chapter 1 and go through a book and manage to get it finished. I'm insanely jealous. I'd love to be able to do that, because I hate planning books, but I have to, and I have to do it assiduously, really, and really get the full structure of the book as well. I read a lot about story structure and what makes story work, what makes books work, and I'm always planning very, very carefully, because so many times I've kind of had a vague idea, I've sketched out a rough outline, and I've then gone and started writing it. I've got halfway through and got completely lost, and that happened with Her Last Tomorrow, the book that really took off. And that sat in the drawer unfinished for about 6 months, and I nearly didn't put it out at all. I kind of finished it by accident, because I was a bit bored. I was between books. I didn't know what I was going to write next, and I figured that trying to finish a book that was half written would be easier. And thankfully I did, and it's kind of scared me a bit since then to, I don't want to do that again and have a potentially best-selling, blockbusting book that I don't finish because I haven't planned it properly.
So when you start to write and in the planning stages, what inspires you to get your ideas? Is it like from the news, or just something you read and then you think, oh, that would make a good story? Or
yeah, both of those things. Also, I read a lot and watch a lot of thrillers and things on TV, so I'm always getting ideas for things. Now, perhaps it might just be one small element that I think, I like that, and you run away with it and create a totally different plot from it. And also things, I mean, murder mysteries, or what helps with the Kempston Hardwick ones is watching and reading other similar things and thinking, I think I know what's going on here. You try and work out the puzzle yourself. And always, inevitably, I'm completely wrong, but prefer my way. So I go out and I write my version of it, my take on it, I suppose. But, people say there are only 7 stories. So if you keep reading, keep watching things, always going around with open eyes and open ears, then ideas come to you. And I jot them all down in notebooks, digital ones and real ones, and I just flick through those and try and put things together. Sometimes I might take a character from one notebook and a setting from another, plus a few lines of dialogue from here, and just brainstorm really and come up with something from there.
And when you start putting your stories together, do you use like Word, or you use like a writing software?
Yeah, I use Scrivener to write, and it's great for planning as well, because I can draw out the structure on there. I can list out the chapters and what's going to happen, so I always know what I'm writing. I don't sit down in the morning and go, right, what do I write now? Because I've got the chapters laid out there in order already. It's just a case of clicking onto one, reading the notes that I've written before about what that chapter's going to be about, and cracking on with it.
Oh, I see. So even before you sit down, all the chapters are already they're empty, but they're there with little notes and ready to go. That's a great idea.
That's right. Yeah. So otherwise, I know a lot of writers who get up in the morning, they make a coffee, they sit and read the paper, you're kind of procrastinating and putting things off. And I've done that myself. So to know that I can just sit down and look at something, and that's telling me what to write for that day, essentially. So, and that's another reason why I plan quite a lot too.
And do you have like a word goal, a daily good word set, a goal set that you have for yourself, or?
Yeah, a minimum of 2,000 words a day, but yeah, often more. I have had 10 and 12,000 word days, which are they feel great when you do them, but for the next 2 or 3 days you're completely wiped out. So it probably works out about the same in the long run. But yeah, that's my minimum. I do have some time off in between books. I'm having a bit of downtime at the moment because I've just finished one that comes out at the end of this month. So, but yeah, certainly when I'm actually writing a book, it's about 2,000 words a day.
Yeah, it is those. I hit 10,000 once, and it was like kind of like running a marathon or something. It's like wiped out at the end.
You just sit in the corner,
Yeah, like in the fetal position. What's your new book that's coming out now that you are publishing soon here?
That is the 6th, I believe, Knight Culverhouse book called "In the Name of the Father," in which they investigate a local, a religious cult on a local farm, which is fast becoming a suicide cult. And the guy who runs it is essentially killing people who want to leave and exercising his control over them. So it's a very dark book compared to the ones that I've written before, but also quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. I'll have to check that out when you publish that. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's one of those books that I got halfway through and I thought I really don't like this, as I do with every book that I write. But yeah, it seems to have worked, and the feedback from early readers has been fantastic. So I'm eagerly looking forward to it.
And do you do a lot of research before you get down to write?
I do, yeah. I did quite a bit of reading for this one on cults and the sort of Jim Jones situation. I think it was in over in Africa, and yeah. I try not to read too much sometimes and to kind of let my imagination go. But yeah, there are times when you do need to speak to experts, or you do need to to do a bit more. And I spoke to a couple of people who had been involved in religious cults in the States as well for this book. But yeah, it depends. A lot of the time I'm doing my research as I'm writing as well. I'll write something and I think, oh, actually I need to speak to somebody about this. And you try and call on people as you're going. So it depends. This one was quite research light, really, compared to a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Jim Jones, actually, before they moved to Guyana, they were here in San Francisco, where I live. I mean, this is way before I have my time, but it's just kind of creepy that all that was here, that started here in this city.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on psychology as well, the way these things work, and that's what fascinates me. I try and build a lot of psychological stuff into my crime books as well, because it's always something that's interested me.
And do you have like when you start writing, do you have like a special spot that you go to, like a home office, or you go to a coffee shop, or where do you do your writing?
Yeah, I've got an office in the back bedroom, so that's sort of exclusively that's where I'm sat now. So I've got my desk looking out the window over the garden. I've got bookcases both sides of me, and yeah, it's purely my space, which is great. Sometimes it gets a bit hot up here in the summer, so I'll go and sit in the conservatory or in the garden. Or I'm not someone who can write with distractions, though. A lot of people have the radio on, or they listen to music. Some people go to cafes and coffee shops, but I just can't do that. I can't have any music on, or if I do, it has to be music that doesn't have any lyrics, because I sit there and realise that I've actually just typed out the lyrics, rather than any meaningful prose. So I'm a creature of habit, I suppose, when it comes to my writing, and I tend to do most of my writing in the morning, first thing, and it's just what works best for me.
Yeah, that's I'm the same way too, because then I'll hear a song I like and I'll be like, oh, whatever happened to that singer, and I'll go, next thing I know, I'm on Google,
Yeah, that's another pitfall for me for researching things as I go, because you end up Googling something and you realise it's 3:00 and you've written 5 words. So
who are some of your writing influences?
Well, I think I'm influenced by everything I read, but I suppose the ones that have probably most informed my writing would be people like Peter James, Stephen King, for their style of writing and the way they get things across in a very simple, straightforward way and keep the plot moving as well. So I'd say probably those in terms of writing style, but yeah, I read a lot, and I try and, I suppose all writers, we're like sponges. Everything we see, everything we hear, we take it on board, and everything informs our writing and our style of writing.
And how many books do you have published so far?
Good question. I think 13. Possibly.
Wow, that's great. That's a good problem to have, to not remember, because you have so many out.
Well, the problem is, I know how many I've written, but how many are out, I'm not sure, because I'm releases at the moment, and obviously working with Amazon through Thomas and Mercer, I'm always, they've always got a book or two that I've delivered to them that's not been released, and vice versa. So yeah, I think I'm around 13 now.
And do you still find time to read with your busy schedule?
Absolutely, yeah. I always try and read probably at least an hour a day. So I know a lot of writers who just say, I've not got the time for it, or I don't get the same enjoyment out of books now that I know how they work. And I can understand that. I do read books in a different way. But yeah, I always try and make time for it, definitely.
And so when you're in your books, does any of your personality end up in any of your characters? The good or the bad?
I would like to say no, and I think everybody who knows me is probably screaming yes at this point. I think there's probably bits of me in all of the characters. I know some friends of mine think that Kempston Hardwick is who I would like to be. This kind of odd Victorian throwback recluse. It's I suppose bits of me do creep into your writing. You can't avoid that. But one thing I never do is I never base any characters on any real people, purely because I've never met anyone interesting enough to be a character. I just think life in general is quite boring, really, and that's why I invent these fictional worlds and fictional people.
And so do you already have, like, for 2017? I mean, do you already have kind of like an idea of how many books you're gonna be working on, and how far in advance do you plan?
Oh, I plan quite a long way in advance, I suppose. Even especially career-wise, I know where I want to be at certain points, and I know which milestones and things I want to hit. In terms of the books, it's a case of just keeping going, really. I know that I've got one out from Amazon at the beginning of March, and I imagine it'll probably be at least 6 next year. But the cycle I'm hitting at the moment is to have a novel every 2 months, and in the months in between to have a short story out. I've had one out so far with on the Kindle Singles label, and hoping to do more. If they don't fancy them, then I'll put them out myself. It's nice to kind of cycle the novels and the short stories.
Yeah, it is a nice freedom to have that. Like you said, if they don't want it, you'll just do it yourself. That's such cool freedom that we have now in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to do it through. Kindle Singles especially is fantastic, because you are essentially self-publishing, with the benefit that they give you an editor and a cover design. So you publish it through your own KDP dashboard. You put it up there at 99 cents or 99p, and rather than getting 35% royalty at that level, they give you 70%. So it's, you get a free cover design, a free editor, and double the royalty. So yeah, great if they take them. It's fantastic. That's
a big chunk of the cost to put a book out there that they're picking up.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's at 99 cents, but it's been out probably about a month and a half, and it does really well. It's it doesn't make loads of money, but considering I wrote it in a week, and not even in a week really. I was on holiday on a Greek island in August, and while my wife was getting ready in the evenings, I was out on the balcony writing this short story. I got it finished inside a week, so yeah, it's not bad really for the time it took.
Yeah, I just found out. I was just in Italy in August, and we have friends that live there, and it's the first time I've been there, and I didn't realize that it seems like all of Europe goes on vacation in August and holiday.
Oh yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, Britain.
It's like everything shuts down.
Yeah, we're like migrating birds. We all head south. It's I suppose it in America and a lot of places where the weather's, if you're in an area where the weather's warm all the time, there's no need to go anywhere. But I suppose it's a very European thing that we all disappear off for a fortnight.
So I was reading on your website about, and you mentioned it before, that you're having one of Kempston Hardwick is being turned into British television?
I can't say much at all, really. But yeah, there are meetings being had, and all I can say is that it's not the kind of traditional case of being able to just hand something over to somebody and have them do it. But I've got a lot of creative control, and I'm involved in the writing and adaptation as well. So that's that's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting. So good luck with that. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you more when I can.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it says I was also reading your bio that before you started writing, you were a consultant and doing internet marketing. Do you find that skill helped you when it came to the business side of publishing fiction?
Yes and no. Yeah, it's something I get asked quite a lot. And I mean, when I was doing internet marketing, I was selling personalized car license plates using search engine optimization. So a totally different thing from marketing books. And to be honest, I don't think I've really brought any of that on board. I suppose the basic marketing principles might have helped, but I think more the business principles of running a small business, I think, have helped. And knowing that. I think, especially as a self-publisher, you've got to be an entrepreneur at the same time. You can't just, you can't be just the writer. You've got to be the business owner as well. So I think that's probably been more useful to me, the business experience.
Yeah, especially if you want to try to do this as make a living out of it. You really have to treat it as a business. Versus if you just want to do it for a hobby or fun, then that's fine. But to take it to the next level, you really need that discipline.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where the future of publishing lies. A lot of people say, do you think traditional publishers will die out? I say, no, they won't. But the way it's going to go is that people who want to go their own way, people who are entrepreneurially minded, will naturally want to self-publish because there are far bigger rewards to be had there if you're of that mindset. But a lot of people I know don't want to do that. They want to write a book, hand it over to somebody else. That other person takes control of the marketing, sorts out the cover design, does everything like that. And that's what traditional publishers are for, I suppose. You're essentially paying someone else to do that work, which is fine.
Yeah, that's what somebody's goal is. That's more power to them. But yeah, it's I keep hearing of the advances are for unknown people. I mean, of course there's people who make a ton of money, but for an unknown person, the advance is going to be tiny, and they're not going to do that much work for you. But yeah,
it depends on what you want, I suppose. If you're not business minded, then it's probably best that you don't go self-publishing, because you almost definitely won't sell books if if you don't have that drive to go out and market yourself and promote yourself.
Yeah, I noticed on your website at adamcroft.net that you have just want to let people know, and I'll have a link on the website for the listeners. But you're giving away a couple of your short stories, so I always want to let people know about that. Yeah, absolutely. It's it's my marketing drive for my mailing list, really. No spam or anything like that. But yeah, give away 2 short stories that aren't available anywhere else, so that's always a bonus. And yeah, in the middle of kind of updating and upgrading my website at the moment, so hopefully that'll have a lot more on it soon, because it's been up there for years and it's been sorely neglected. Oh, it looks nice, and I love your book covers too, by the way. They're really catchy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always quite. I love looking at book covers. I get quite critical of different covers sometimes. So yeah, I do put a lot of effort into getting really involved in that process.
Do you go back after your book is published? Do you change the cover? I know some authors go back and change the covers a whole bunch of times, or do you kind of, once it's done, you move on to the next project?
I have done, yeah. It was only in the last perhaps 2 or 3 years that the covers have had that real look and that brand to them. Especially with the Kempston Hardwick ones, that kind of red and black style to them. That's only really been there about a year and a half, something like that. And before then, they didn't really have a kind of a uniform look and feel. Whereas now, people see a book cover of mine, they know immediately what series it's from. They know what they're getting. So yeah, I have gone back and changed them in the past. Yeah. Yeah,
but before I let you go, and we do have a kind of a mix of just readers, but we also have aspiring writers that listen to this show. I was just, if you have any advice that you can give them for somebody who might be thinking about writing their first book.
Carry on. Keep going. It's even after 9-10 books, there's so many times where I was just sorely tempted to give up and get a proper job. But unfortunately, I'm stubborn and I'm pig-headed, and I didn't, and I carried on, and that's all I can say really. At some point, the tipping point will come if you persevere. The reason a lot of people aren't successful isn't through bad luck or anything like that. It's through giving up. So don't give up.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast, and we're looking forward to your new book and that BBC show. So you'll have to let us know.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Meet the Thriller Author. I'd like to ask you to please review and rate this podcast over on iTunes. It really helps me get the word out. If you take a few seconds of your time to do that, it would be much appreciated. You can also visit my website at thrillingreads.com/podcast for show notes on this episode, as well as information about the podcast in general. And you can also sign up for my mailing list there. You'll be getting special offers from our guests, as well as information, behind the scenes information on the podcast. And please do visit my author website at alanpeterson.com. I appreciate your support. And so until next episode, I will talk to you then.